Hey everyone, it's your host Marcus Norman of the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today I have a very fascinating and phenomenal guest coming to the show today. I have Mr. Ralph Brewer, who said yes to being a guest on the show today, who is the author and founder of Help for Men and the Help for Men Brotherhood. And he is here, he's on mission. He's on duty and he is here to serve and give back to our men because, as some of you may know, some of you may already know, our men are not thriving, our men are not succeeding, our men are not doing well in life and in numerous facets. And so we are here today with Mr. Ralph. He is here to help us peel back some layers, debunk some myths, and figure out what it is that we can do by one, calling it out, right? We got to call out the problems, face them head on. And he is here to help us figure out what men can do to do better and improve and get some tools in our tool belt to help equip our men for the foreseeable future so that they can thrive and win and succeed. So without further ado, I can't hold back this incredible gentleman any further. Help me welcome to the stage the incredible Mr. Ralph Brewer.
Marcus, thank you so very much. Hello, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you for making time. I truly meant what I said. Thank you for making time today to be here and give back in this way. I find this as a kind service, and absolutely what you're doing, the great work, the necessary work, what you're doing is absolutely needed. So thank you for saying yes and being here today, sir.
Absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
Mr. Brewer, starting off with a softball question, I want to kind of find out where it began for you. When did you notice that men were not doing well? Was this a personal thing? When did you notice men not doing well? And when did you realize that you had the gift to give back and help men do better in life because they're not winning and succeeding? When did it start for you?
I would love to say that it was some serendipitous call, from my God or whatever it may be, but really it was 14 years ago. I went through a pretty nasty divorce where I had to, in essence, recreate myself and rediscover just who I am and what I stand for. What is it I want out of life? Because everything at that point that I thought was mapped out for me in life, so to speak, I knew what was going to happen tomorrow. I knew it was going to happen the next month, the next year. I got my kids, I got my wife, I got my house, I got all that, and literally overnight was gone. And so when that happens, you're left going, oh, poop, who am I? What do I do from here? And then you get into deeper things of what is it that I stand for? What is it that I want out of life? Who am I exactly? Because when you're stripped of your roles in life, you have those deep questions. It's kind of like guys who, have been in a job for 20, 30 years. And before retirement, the company says, we don't need you anymore. And he's like, oh, I'm no longer vice president of so-and-so. Who am I exactly? What am I without my job title? And he can't get another job. Now he feels really lost. But most of the people that I help, most of the guys that I help, are those that have been in long-term relationships, and either they're still in them, but the relationship has really faltered and has really gone downhill, or their wife has said, I don't want to be with you anymore, which is what I endured. And at the time I had 3 little kids, 2 of which are adults now. So it shows you how long ago this was. But my story in a nutshell was I had a very difficult time coping with it, be honest with you. Pretty sensitive guy, pretty anxious guy in general at baseline. And that's something I've really had to work on overcoming. And part of my process of dealing with this kind of self-therapy, if you will, was writing. I really love to write. That was something I did in my younger years, and it's something I got away from. And I started writing a blog, and it was something that got a little bit of attention, but not much. And then I had a few loyal followers, if you will, and one of them suggested I write a book. And so I did. And lo and behold, actually got some success. There was some marketing behind it, some money behind it, but eventually it found an audience to the point where 3 editions later and hundreds of thousands of copies sold, that book did really well. And I wrote 4 more books, one of which just came out here recently. I know your audio listeners can't see this, but I'm holding up a copy of it here. It's called Rebuild: The Complete Guide to Starting Over as a Man. That's my latest book. That is my 5th book. And I'm leaving little details out here and there, but I started a men's group to support men going through much what I did. I started doing coaching. I've hired 5 other guys to help me on my team that also do one-on-one coaching for men that need help. We have private discussion forums. We have private Zoom meetings in our men's group, the Brotherhood, we call it. We get together in person. We have conferences where we get together in person in the U.S. as well as in Australia. We're having our 6th annual one coming up here in Louisville, Kentucky next March. And we have a giant audio library for our guys because we've learned that guys love audio material, podcasts and audio books and all that good stuff. So we provide over 1,300 hours of audio content for our guys, and that continues to grow on a daily basis. So this is something that I'm extremely proud of, because basically back 14 years ago, I didn't have this. I didn't have any of this. I was kind of like a lost little kid. I often liken it to a lot of guys can relate to this. When you're a little kid and you're in the department store and you're looking at something, you turn around and mommy's gone or dad's gone, and you're left going, oh, where'd everybody go? That's kind of what you feel. You feel abandoned. You feel lost. You don't know where to go next. And that's what I felt. And a lot of guys can relate to that. And I'm extending my hand saying, been there and done that, dude. I'm here to help you however I can. And now I have a community of hundreds of other men from around the world. And a lot of guys find me via my books. I put out a lot of video material under the brand of Dad Starting Over, which is what I originally did way back then. That was the name of my blog, which eventually became the name of my Facebook account and YouTube account. And I have 130 some thousand subscribers on YouTube. I have 250 some thousand on Facebook. So it continues to grow. So we're reaching a lot of guys. And as you mentioned off the top, we got a lot of guys in pain, a lot of guys hurting. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a big, holy crap moment like what I went through with the divorce. Absolutely. And everything else. Sometimes it's just at baseline kind of an identity. Who am I? What do I stand for? Sometimes it hits guys in midlife. I just turned 50 years of age myself last week. And a lot of guys around this time say, oh, I don't 50. Know. I'm 50.
You look good.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
I never knew. For those of you that can't see him, he looks very fit. I wouldn't mess with him. He looks like a Navy SEAL.
Well, thank you. I don't know about that, but thank you so much. I should have you follow me around. I like it. And so, so we got a lot of guys that are like kind of clueless. And, we dig into it. We got guys from all facets of this guys needing help realm. We got guys that are married that are in what we call dead bedroom relationships, meaning he and the wife haven't touched each other in years and years. I wrote a book about that. So that's why a lot of guys come to me about that. We got guys dealing with the divorce. We got guys post-divorce. We have guys that have really had no luck whatsoever in the relationship realm. They just can't get into that world at all. That online dating thing, nothing. They try to in person, nothing. People, connect them with other women, nothing happens. So we got guys from all spectrums, I guess you could say, of the relationship-oriented world. And we notice that they all have a lot in common. They have a lot of childhood issues. They have a lot of neurodivergence. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, meaning guys that have ADHD, autism spectrum, obsessive compulsive, dyslexia. We're noticing a lot of that in our group too. That's very common in guys that have relationship problems. So the solution is not all the same for everybody. Every little situation is different, but at the very core of it, there's a lot in common between these guys. Who am I? What do I stand for? What is my identity? When you strip away these titles of dad, employee, husband, who am I at my core? And what we found is that a lot of guys can't answer that. They don't know.
I saw a lot of that in the military. I'm a military veteran, and you're right. Cool. There's a core. There's some things missing as the men grow up, as they mature, as we grow up. Let me stop speaking in like separate sense. I'm a man myself, but there are some underlying things missing. For you, this is kind of redundant. For you, when your wife hit you with you said she initiated the divorce. Mm-hmm. Did you see it coming? Probably not.
Not at all. Not to get too deep in the weeds, but it involved infidelity that I discovered. So yes. So it was a double whammy of the divorce is ending and here's why. So it's like, the double punch in the gut.
Absolutely. And the statistics show, the data shows most divorces are initiated by women. Um,
70%.
and that's a big number. That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
that's a very large number, and it's terrifying for men.
Mhm.
It's really terrifying for men, especially to get hit with that I don't have, and it varies, right? I don't have the tingles anymore. I don't have the emotions anymore. You don't make me happy like you used to. You don't do the things, I don't subscribe to that logic. I
Mhm.
do I do subscribe that men are growing up unequipped, like we talked about before. We're unequipped to handle certain aspects of relationships. But I don't think it's men's fault. When you have the data that shows most men, I suspect most men are being raised by single mothers,
Oh,
absent
wow.
of the father being at home. And they're being raised by single mothers, and the mothers are giving them the tools that benefit them, kind of this emotional incest. And
Yeah.
so these
Mhm.
women, these single mothers are raising men to do the things that were only good for the mom. And then
Mm.
you release these men out into the world, and they only know, they only know how to serve mom. They have a very high connection to mom. Like, they're
Mhm.
married, but they want to serve mom. And so the gaps, I don't think men are causing the issues. What do you see in help for men? What do you see? I know you said there are things missing, but what do you see as a cause for those things missing? Is it because dad is not home? Is it
That's a big
because
part of it. Yeah.
that's a big part of it?
Yeah, it's not every situation for sure,
Right.
but what you described there, you hit on some really big points there that are in my world are huge. One is enmeshment, or as you called it, emotional incest, which for those that don't know, or is that right? Emotional incest?
Yes,
Yes.
emotional incest.
Yeah, for some reason it sounded wrong. But yes, for those that don't know, it's a really common phenomenon where usually with the opposite sex parent, where it is, for example, in the example you gave, let's say dad leaves, dad passes away, they get a divorce, whatever it may be, and now it's mom and her quote little man, and the man and or the little man, her son, in essence, becomes the surrogate husband. So she comes home from work and she tells him all about her day, tells about the date she had last night with this guy and that guy, and she can't believe her friend Karen said this and that. It is very, it's a very unhealthy connection with her parent, with her mother. And that in turn, what we have seen after studying so many men, I'm not a psychologist or a therapist in any way, let's get that out of the way. But what a lot of professionals who specialize this have seen is that that results in down the line a lot of really negative stuff as far as that man and his future relationships are concerned, his romantic relationships. He takes that baggage into his future relationships, and he tends to be a very codependent man. He tends to be the white knight, as they call it, Mr. Fixer, and he loves to find quote broken women or women that are very troubled and very dysfunctional as far as relationships are concerned, and he tries to fix them, and he tries to be their knight in shining armor and do, and the more toxic and broken that woman is, the better. And very
Mm,
often these men have multiple relationships and it's just one after the other. Very, very similar. That's what we see in our group a lot. That's not everybody, but that's a big chunk of it. All the way to, hey, let's not let men off the hook here. Let's be fair. We have some abusive fathers out there. We have some fathers that drive their son to perform. And if you don't perform at the highest level, you are worthless. Second place is, what do they say, the first loser, or whatever the phrase is, that if you don't get first place, you might as well get the last place. And I have some men in the group, for example, that are really high performers. I remember one guy, for example, who was very good looking guy. He was a surgeon, no less. He also had a lot of money by virtue of, like, he was had some entrepreneurial endeavors and everything else. On paper, this guy was it. But he had a horrible track record with relationships. And when we really kind of peeled back layers of the onion, it was he had a father who was just pushing him and pushing him. And if this guy, as a child, didn't hyper perform, dad really wanted nothing to do with him. That was his assessment, anyway, of it. And so he took that into his adult years, and he basically devoted zero time to wife and to the relationship and to cultivating the relationship, zero thought to her feelings in any way, shape, or form. He just became this quintessential type A go getter. He put blinders to the rest of the world, and he just had to perform, had to perform. And here's his wife saying, I don't want to be with you anymore. So we have those kind of guys and everything in between. It's all over the place.
It's definitely all over the place. This is and absolutely to your great point. That's it's a lot. But there are some common denominators. And I think once we fix those underlying things, um I one of the things I always tell people is, hey, you're a single mother for whatever reason, whatever, that mom needs to go on her own journey of healing and self-discovery. But putting your young son in a place that he was never meant to be in is not the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that do- brings up the question, can a single mother raise a young man? And I continuously say no. That mother needs to get that young man around healthy men, right? You
Bingo,
need to
bingo.
and sign them up for Help for Men, right? Get them on the website, get them in the group, get them involved with men who are going in the trajectory that this young man needs. But you cannot give what you don't have.
Mm-hmm.
That mother has never been a man. She's never walked a day as a man, and so you can't give him what he needs, but you can support him and encourage him. And I've never understood that for the life of me. Why the mother will sit there and keep the son instead of giving him to the father, right? In a divorce, in a separation. Why
Mm-hmm.
give him to his father? He knows what's best. He can't explain why he has this problem with sitting down when he pees. He has no idea. Right? He can't explain it. He does it subconsciously. And it's those covert things that you can't give a man. I remember someone telling me, Marcus, you're a gentleman. You open doors for all women, and I teach my son to open doors for all women. No, right? I would not teach my son to open doors for all women, or all people, because not everyone has good intentions, and not everyone is deserving. Because what you're doing is you're setting that man up for failure. He's going to do things like you said. He's going to save everyone. He's going to
Mm-hmm.
save all women. He's going to be the hero. I opened the door for this woman and I opened the door for that woman. No, you need to understand that that is a gift, and that is something that there are people that you love that you do that for. And you can be respectful towards women, but not all women are deserving of your time, are deserving of your energy, are deserving of your resources. And I need this young man to understand the difference
Mm-hmm.
between the two. Any thoughts there, Mr. Brewer?
Oh, very well put. Very well put. It takes a community to raise a kid. So to your point of the typical single mother who says like, only I know how to raise this kid. Screw the dad. Who needs it? The father? Father was a deadbeat or whatever it may be. Often we have a lot of guys, as a side note, who have their father was demonized throughout their whole childhood, and they had a mother who said, that father wanted nothing to do with you. I'm the one who loves you. Gosh darn it. And then years later, usually in adulthood, he realizes, oh wow, the dad actually was trying to spend more time with me. He kept reaching out and he tried, via the courts and the law to get more custody of me. My dad wasn't a deadbeat after all. It was my mother who was the term, the alienation. She
Yes.
kept me away from him. So what we have seen again and again, we have a lot of data to back this up. The polarity of the mother and father in the kid's life is huge. But we're discounting another aspect to all this, which is the extended family, the grandmas and
Mhm.
grandpas, the aunts and
Yes.
uncles, the cousins, siblings. Like all these people serve a little role in creating that, what we're talking about, the young man who is the well-rounded young man who has a good head on his shoulders and has a sense of confidence, a sense of self-worth. And if your identity is solely wrapped around I must be a rescuer and a savior to women because that's what my mother told me. She told me give every woman a chance, be nice no matter what the woman says or does. She's a queen and she deserves to be treated as such.
That's not true.
As you know, Marcus, that doesn't go well. It doesn't go well at all. And it's interesting. You mentioned you're in the military. What branch of the military, if I may ask?
I did 8 years in the United States Navy.
In the Navy. My father was 33 years in the Air Force. So he was a career enlisted guy in the Air Force. So I was a military brat. So I know that world well. And my dad's got into the military like a lot of young men, as I'm sure you know. The military was basically that community for them, that they knew, whether they knew it consciously or not, they were missing it. And they needed that structure. They needed that strong male force in their life to kind of tell them what to do and to give them guidance and to show them what, make your bed. I mean, it's very basic, like parental stuff. Make your bed, get your uniform right, eat right, exercise, study what you're supposed to study, go do your trade, be a warrior, be a gentleman, all these things. A lot of guys in that world don't get that at all from their little family, if you will. It's lacking. We have a lot of young men who come from single mother families, for sure.
Absolutely.
My father was one of them. My father, his mother abandoned him, and he was raised by his grandparents. And then he basically was seeking out some of that kind of structure in his life. And so he went to the military, ended up going to Vietnam and getting hurt. And not so good stuff resulted from that. But that's a good example of a guy who was just kind of seeking that out. And from what I understand, that's pretty common.
Absolutely. It's very common, and it's terrible. And what's happening is it's not getting better.
Mm.
I am finding as I grow in influence and as I meet women, that gap is widening. So I'm meeting young men, and the young men have a hard time finding relationships, making connections with the opposite sex. I'm
Yep.
encountering men who are struggling with finding a job, finding placement, and then I look at the family dynamic. Mom is also unmarried. She's single. She's been a single mom forever. But then now you go back one more generation, right? Grandma is also single or was married, filed for divorce, is now divorced, and that gap is widening the longer we go. So
Mm.
we're systematically extending this and perpetuating this cycle of singleness and and you have single mother pouring into her children, but who was also raised from a mother who also had no idea how to connect with the opposite sex, and the cycle keeps perpetuating downhill. And
Hmm.
I'm finding uh, it was crazy to me when I discovered it and I made the connection. And I asked the mom, I said, "Are your parents still married?" And she said, "No." And your son is struggling today. Your daughter is struggling today would make the connection opposite. Well, I want them to focus on school. That's a problem, right? Because yes, do at a certain age and there's a period that they need to focus on school. But the other thing is he has emotions and feelings that need to be addressed, and you're not addressing it by kicking the can down the road.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
he'll figure out relationships later. No, you need to have a conversation with him. And if you're uncomfortable or ill-equipped to have the conversation, he's lost. Like you said, the man is now joining. He's with the grandparents, and he has no idea what to do, and he has no concept because you've negated his feelings. Right?
Hmm.
It was his urges. He has urges that are unanswered, right? And you can't explain it. But instead of addressing it, you're ignoring it and ignoring his feelings. That's
That's
big.
huge.
And you're
Yeah.
creating a problem. Even though you're saying he needs to focus on school, you've created another problem by doing that. And you can't ignore it. So Mr. Brewer, huge. My God.
Well, what you identified there is kind of a generational dysfunction, and we see that in all of our guys. All they got to do is, look with a little bit more scrutiny at their immediate family and their father, and like, man, my dad was just like me. He was Mr. Nice Guy, and my mom walked all over him. Or my mom divorced my dad, and he was basically living in a little apartment. My mom jumped from man to man to man, and my dad was just such a pushover. And then they go, you know what? Grandpa was kind of the same way. And they realize, yeah. But what a lot of power in the recognition of that, where you're now finally able to go, whoa, time out. No, we're not doing this anymore. And you raise your hand and say, I need some help with this because I'm not going to pass this on to my boy and he's not going to pass it on to his son. We're going to do something different this time. I mean, what a gift to be able to get that, to realize that, because grandpa sure didn't, dad sure didn't. They were just so busy with their work and trying to pay the bills and everything else. They didn't have, this internet and the Marcuses and the Ralphs of the world to talk to them about this stuff. So, in a way, we do see that gap widening that you mentioned. And it seems like, yes, some of our young men are adrift. They're not having relationships. They're not dating. There's interesting stats around young people not having sex anymore. It's kind of alarming. There's some other things that go with it. I don't think it's a coincidence that they're also not drinking alcohol anymore. I thought that was interesting. Just a lot of things that we kind of took for granted as far as what allowed us to go out and meet the opposite sex and learn about the opposite. They're just not doing any of that stuff. So it's a real
Giving up.
opportunity for us guys that are more conscious of all this to say, son, there's some, you need to do things a little differently. I know your friends are all doing this, and I know, but no, we need to steer you in this direction. And yeah, we're lucky in that way.
Have you encountered that in your program in the Help for Men Brotherhood, where you have actually encouraged a young man to go seek out his biological father?
We have some. We don't have many young men in our group. I think the
Okay,
youngest.
okay.
I think the youngest we have in our group is 24 years of age. That's pretty young, but I think the average is anywhere from 30 to 55 years of age is most of our group. And we have some guys in their 70s and, like I said, in their 20s. But we have some older guys that are, I never had a good relationship with my dad. And I'm like, well, why not? Well, he took off. He went to California and blah blah blah. And my mom, basically told me my whole life, you don't want anything to do with dad. And there have been a few guys that I can think of off the top of my head that we have steered them towards, what's it hurt to extend an olive branch to dad and just go, Dad, it's me. It's your boy. We haven't spoken in 20 some odd years, and let's get together. Let's, have coffee. Let's just chat. And I would love to say, and they all result in amazing, reconnection but no, but at least they recognize, I tried. I was hoping to form a bond, and some of those guys were blessed to have a stepdad in their life or something, but most, as you know, don't. So, yeah, it's interesting.
I love that you guys have done that, and like you said, it's not a cover up, it's not a fixer, but
Mm,
to close off a chapter, supposedly, right?
very
Get
well put. Yeah.
get get some closure, and say, "Yep, mom was right," or maybe you could have found it wasn't entirely his fault. He
Mm,
wasn't he did actively try. Hey, mom told you that dad moved to California. Well, that actually isn't the case. Mom met dad in California and mom moved away from him.
mm,
But she
never
told you
know.
he moved to California, and you never know. And
Hmm.
and that can start something. And again, it starts the healing process, but gives closure to another door. Even if it's something you may not want, you now have potential answers. You have real answers. You have
Hmm.
real life answers to, instead of hearing one side of the story. If you look at the law, no judicial system should operate like that, where it's only one side of the story. You should hear both sides and then make a
Hmm.
decision based off of the facts and what you gathered. So I'm glad that the Brotherhood does that, from time to time, and you are and you see that underlying. Hey, what's it hurt? What's it hurt? What's the worst thing that could happen? Well, I could
I find
reconnect.
that's the phrase I say all the time. What's the worst that could happen, dude? Like, well, like that mentality extends to a lot of things in life. I would love to ask my boss for a raise, and I want to become the vice president of whatever, but I don't think I'm ready. What's it hurt to ask? At the worst, the boss says no. Why not? Because you don't do this, this, and this. Oh, now I have a roadmap to get there. Thank you, boss. You don't get that without asking. You don't get the reunions with the dad without saying hello, dad. And you don't form those friendships that it seems like every guy is missing these days. No, but guys don't hang around with other guys anymore. It's just a thing we just don't do. We're too busy with the kids and the work and everything else. So what a lot of guys tell me is they'll just kind of sit back with their arms folded and say, yeah, my friend John, he knows where I am. If he wants to hang out, I'll just, he hasn't reached out to me in the last 2 years. So it is what it is. It's like, dude, somebody has to be the proactive one. Somebody has to go out there and just say, hey, let's all dudes get together again. Let's go hang out. Let's go on a trip somewhere. Let's go to Vegas or something like that. Yeah, I don't think they would. What's it hurt to ask? What if you can rebuild that connection again to those men? Everyone, people are pretty sensitive these days. Everyone's worried about getting their feelings hurt. Everyone's worried about what if they say no. Everyone's scared of rejection. That's something, again, that's probably that masculine edge that a lot of us are missing from our upbringing, that you just go, oh, well, what's the big deal? If the girl shoots you down and says, no, I don't want to go on a date with you. That's cool. There's literally millions of other women on the planet. Boss says, no, I don't want to give you a promotion. In fact, I want to fire you. There are other jobs out there. Friend says, I don't want to hang out with you. There are other friends. It's not a big deal. But for whatever reason, what I'm seeing is, if, as far as the trend is concerned, a lot of really sensitive guys out there that are fearful of rejection. And
Yeah.
that gets in the way of a lot of things in life.
And they're opting out. They're completely opting out. And one of the things that, that another famous not economist, but he studies this stuff and he now pushes it. Scott Galloway.
Mhm.
He's a very big advocate for men, and I subscribe to a lot of his stuff. But he's saying, technology. Why bother with relationships? Why
Mm.
bother with trying to ask a girl out when I can jump on this phone of mine in my back
Mhm.
pocket and subscribe to porn, right?
Yep.
And now I can and establish and get all my again those feelings that I have been unable to address. I can go on social media and have my social media girlfriend. I can play video games till God knows when and establish a community with this virtual avatar.
Yep.
That this person I've never met, I've never saw, but we play World of Warcraft at 2 a.m. every day, and this is my friend, right? And,
Mhm.
and men
Mhm.
are just opting out because there's less friction there, right?
Yeah.
Versus me asking that girl out on a date and then she's saying no. That hurts a lot more than I
Oh,
could
yeah.
just simply log on and connect with someone at the click of a button.
Mhm.
And so, man, oh man, oh man, Mr. Brewer, can you share some schools of thought as to I'll share one. I and again this comes from Scott Galloway. It's not my idea, but there are very few
Mhm.
places for the men to display excellence.
Hmm.
And men are not making those connections in relationships and doing well in relationships, whether it's friendships, relationships, marriage, all the ships, right?
Mm.
Um, and he says, well, men have very few places to display excellence. And as I constantly think about it, when I look at the women out there and I look at social media, women have women's groups, they have social events, even in church, women, the first lady, right, of the church, or depending on whatever denomination you subscribe to, the head female of the church, they're going on cruises together, they're going
Mhm.
bowling, they're going movie night, and the men are just kind of like drifting away, and there's
Yep.
nothing for them. And I
Yep.
I had that problem myself
Mhm.
when I tried to connect with several churches in my area and in different states because of the Navy. I tried to connect to different churches in different states, and there's nothing for me. And it's like, hey, we need you to volunteer, right? We need you to volunteer. We need to lift these heavy things, and whatever the women need, make sure you
Mhm.
open doors and you give them flowers, and that's kind of it, right? And but the women have bowl night, girls' night, paint nails, spa days, and it's all paid for and adorned by the church and the males of the church. And it's just
Mhm.
very few places for men to display excellence. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts?
Bluntly, I will say a lot of that is our fault, and I'm talking to fellow dudes out there.
Okay.
Allow me to explain. So, here's something I hear very often. A guy gets divorced, let's say his wife cheats on him. And he's on the social media and he's talking to people, and what the thing that he very quickly realizes, and like almost every guy sees this, wow, it seems like everybody's coming to the rescue of my ex. She's got the dinner date with her friend. This person is donating furniture for her new place. This person like gave her a car for dirt cheap. Somebody's letting her stay at their house for nothing, while she gets on her feet. Everyone's just coming to the damsel in distress's rescue, even though she's the one that did this bad thing and that bad thing in the guy's mind. And the guy sits back and he's like, not a single person has asked me how I'm doing. Not a single person has texted me. Nobody is like, dude, you need anything? Can we help you with the kids? Nothing. And I'm watching this woman. I go on. The guy goes on the social media and he sees his wife, or ex-wife rather, with the martini in her hand at the girls' night out, going, hey, and she's surrounded by all these people having a good old time. And he's like,
True.
wow, this woman's just living it up. And you say, yeah. One way to internalize that, or one way to explain it away, rather, is to say the world is very anti-male. The world is very pro-female, and it just further pisses men off, and they just want to put themselves in their apartment all by themselves and get on the internet and talk, get on the woman-hating forums and so forth. And really, if you take emotion out of it and just look at it, I guess scientifically, if you will, we know for a fact that women are more social than men in general.
Right.
Women, at a very early age, we can see it with the little girls versus the boys. The girls will tend to get together and help each other out, so to speak. The boys tend to be more, yes, they have their tribes, they have their teams and so forth, but more independent compared to the girls. And you take that into adulthood and you strip away some of the more forced fraternal organizations, Boy Scouts isn't as much of a thing anymore. There was all these fraternal lodges that men had later in life, and veteran organizations and so forth. We see a lot of those just going away. The
Yeah.
men just aren't going to those anymore because we're too busy with this, and this. But the women, on the other hand, typically make it a point to socialize and to maintain that social network. So when you got a woman who, over the last, let's say, decade of a marriage, has cultivated a social network where she has friends, friends of friends, aunt so and so that she sees every now and then, this cousin, that cousin, and on and on. Now she has a network of roughly like 1,000 people that she can call on. And then you look at the dude, and he's got like, I got my friend Dave, I got my friend Matt, and my uncle so and so that I go fishing with every now and then. That's about it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no wonder the woman's got all these people coming to her rescue. It's a numbers game. She has just tons of people that she knows, that she's formed relationships with. So men, lesson learned. They're beating us in that department. We can take notes and we can learn from them and do it the same. But here's the thing: that doesn't mean sit back and just wait for everybody to come to you. You got to be more proactive about it. You got to go out there and you say, for example, with the church thing. Well, it seems like all the church groups are aimed at women. Damn it, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to, until I find a church, I'm going to say, we're going to have a men's group in our church. Well, we already have a ladies group. I know we already have a ladies group, but we're going to have the men's group. And it's going to meet every Friday, and we're going to get together and just talk, have coffee, whatever it may be. And I'm going to replicate it at different churches. That's the kind of effort it takes to get this going. And it ain't going to be much to start with. So it takes guys like me starting Help for Men and the Brotherhood. Learn more at helpformen.com. There's lots of other men's groups out there. Ours isn't the only one. I like to think that ours is one of the best, but I always tell men, whether it's our group or another group, it behooves you, for your mental health, for your just health in general, to get with other men and commiserate with other men, learn from other men in all walks of life. And don't expect that just to happen organically. You got to force it. You got to find those groups and you got to join them and you got to be proactive in them. Otherwise, they just fizzle and die. So, men, it's time to get to work and get to socializing.
I like that. I like that. Be the change you want to see in the world.
There you go. Very well
Create
put.
create the thing that you want to see more of. And you're right. And you're right. You're right. I deal with very few excuses. I don't like excuses. I don't like excuses from most people. And I tend not to socialize with people who come up with excuses right and left. And you know, like if you don't like the your current senator, your governor, your mayor, jump in their shoes. Do what you're asking for, right?
Run for
If you
office.
run
Yeah.
for office, if you so you're right. It's hard. I will say it is. I tend to steer towards men a little bit because it is hard when you're trying to juggle kids, you're trying to juggle a marriage, you're trying to juggle a wife, and you're trying to balance relationships, and you're trying to pay all the bills in your marriage, right? That you're working 2 3 jobs. It
Yep.
seems like nothing is enough. It is hard. I don't want to minimize that, fellas who are
Mhm.
watching Mr. Brewer right now. It is hard, especially in today's age. And so, yeah, but become become the thing, become the thing.
There you go.
That's the fix. So, yeah. What are your thoughts on groups, social groups like Passport Bros, Kevin Samuels, and the Red Pill community? My thoughts are, I think men gravitate to those areas,
Mhm.
um, plainly and simply because um, men go where they see value. Men are very Men are not emotionally driven. We are analytically driven, and men are and instead, and the men who do have the social status and the ability to connect, um and they try and go to social events, and they try to go to these singles mixers to try and connect with opposite sex. They're finding more and more that the community isn't involved. So what do men do? They gravitate to areas and countries. Passport Bros, they
Mhm.
gravitate to um countries where the women are still brought up with a sense of there's value to men. You should honor a man, you should love a man, you should support him, you should believe in him and encourage him. I
Mhm.
think that's natural instinct of men to do. And that's why men gravitate to communities and areas where we feel served. I had a friend in the military, and he loved Japanese women. And I didn't understand it. I didn't understand it until he showed me. But his Japanese girlfriend loved made the world out of him.
Mm.
And so in that experience, I learned that men gravitate to where they feel love and cherished and honored. What are your thoughts as why these red pill communities and passport bros and Kevin Samuel communities and all these communities that have developed, and why? Any thoughts there?
It's, that's, I guess it's kind of, I look at it as kind of two separate worlds: the passport bro, and then the more red pill, like the manosphere, as they call it, world. Uh, the red pill world is that's nothing new, where it's basically a response to a marginalized uh, population of people. So whether it's men, whether it's people of a certain race, whether it's people of a certain religion, whatever it may be, if they are told by society at large, you are less than, you are less than, you are less than, they're naturally going to gravitate towards whatever tells them you're actually a king. You're actually better than. That's where it gets a little squirrely. Not only are you okay, but you're actually better than, and those people that are pointing the finger at you are less than, and we should demonize them. And that's where it gets kind of not so nice. That's where it gets a little toxic. Um, so it's completely understandable, which is also, I was interviewed not too long ago before the last US election. I was interviewed by New York Magazine, Forbes, News Nation, who else? Somebody else I'm forgetting. And they all wanted to talk to me for whatever reason about politics, because there was an article that came out saying that the majority of divorced men said verbally that they were going to vote conservatively for Trump in the election. And this kind of blew a lot of people away. Like, wow, it's like the number was way higher than the general public. And they asked me why that is. And I said, well, we have a marginalized group of people who have been told by one side, uh, you're less than, your masculinity is a little toxic. You need to simmer it down. You need to be more feminine. And some of your more masculine traits are kind of scary, and it's bad for society overall. And you need to downplay that. And look at this guy over here. He's more feminine. We like him better. You hear that again and again. All it takes is somebody on the other side going, we think you're fine over here. And they just all gravitate over there. Regardless of whether the policies, go against your own well-being, if you're voting against your own needs, it doesn't really matter when the message is one of you're accepted. People gravitate to where they're accepted and where they're made to feel a lot better than. Now, is there any parallels to the passport bro thing? I got in trouble for this once because I called my father a passport bro. Technically not. He was in the military and he met my mother when he was stationed in Spain. So my mother's a Spanish woman. My father passed away at a young age. My mom's still around. She's in her 70s. So she was a poor Spanish gal. And yes, over there, the culture is a little different in how they probably more of what you would call traditional in a lot of their roles. And I think that is attractive to a lot of men. Now, with that being said, let's take some of the criticisms of that world and see if there's any validity to it. Let me back up. There's like a big picture thing when it comes to long-term marriage, monogamous relationships overall. When we look at why is it that our grandparents and great-grandparents could make it work for like 50, 60 years? And why is it seems like we have such a hard time doing that? If you study it, it's not so nice, really. And I say this as a dude who is an advocate for dudes, but the glue that held a lot of those relationships together when you look at it is need. She needed him and he needed
Absolutely.
her. And now when you flip it and I went to my son's he's now in college, but when he graduated high school, I went to his high school graduation, and it's a Catholic school, and they split up the boys dressed in blue gowns and the girls in white gowns, and they announced all the girls first, and then they went through all the boys first. And the girls were like, she's going to go to the University of Kentucky for neuroscience. She's going to Indiana University to pre-med. And you're like one girl after the other. And you're just like, oh, wow, these girls are high achievers. And then you went to the boys. Not so much. It was undecided. He's going to go in the trades, which there's nothing wrong with, by the way. Probably he's going to end up making a really decent living. But just on paper, as far as ambition was concerned, when you just looked at it on paper, the girls won big time.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, that's a really common thing that we're seeing across the high schools and university level. The girls are kicking our butts. They're kicking our butts in the corporate level too. They're starting to get the higher, they're the ones becoming the VP of whatever. They're the ones becoming the partner in the law firm. So that's just one aspect of all this, the economics of it. But now you have a lot of ladies that say coming into the dating market, the mating game, if you will, and they're looking for a mate. And are they going to settle for the guy he's a plumber, he makes a decent living, but you know what? She's a partner at a law firm. And you know what? It's difficult, number one, to get the marriage started with
Right.
those obstacles in the way. And it's difficult to maintain when at any point in the relationship, one looks at the other and says, I don't really need you. And what we have seen statistically is that the women tend to be the ones saying, I don't really need you, dude.
Yeah.
We've been together for so many years. We got so many kids and so much resentment and so much water under the bridge. And I've resent you because of this. I don't like you so much because of this. And I've fallen out of love with you because of this. And the last pillar holding up the building is, and I don't really need you all that much anymore. I don't need you for money. I don't need you for this and that. So what are we doing married anymore? That seems to be kind of the theme around a lot of this. And it's sad, isn't it? But that's what we're seeing again and again. So I think going back to the passport bro thing, for a lot of them, a lot of guys, let's be honest, they're kind of resolving that need thing. If you go to the Philippines, you go to Thailand, and you got the ladies aren't doing too well. So here comes Mr. American dude, and he's like, I just want a woman who doesn't treat me like shit. Excuse my language.
Good.
I just want somebody who's going to be there for me and not run off and do da 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 da. And she's like, and I just need somebody to take care of me. And you're a nice guy. And he's like, cool. You need me. I need you. Voila. That's what we're seeing. Um, there are some
Right.
people that look at that and go, oh, here we go. The guy's running over to a foreign country just to find some woman that needs him. He can't find true love. He can't. There's good and bad either way. I get it. Some of the criticisms, and I also get why some of those guys are doing what they're doing.
I am with you 1,000%. Men are not doing well, and the point, great points all around. The point early first that you made about in the Catholic school and the women having all these accolades and going on to bigger and better things. Um, yes, in go back 200 years, yes, women needed men, but in the flip and women's suffrage was a real thing. Women's suffrage was a real thing. I don't want to take away from that. And women didn't have a lot of rights. They didn't have a lot of ability to advocate for themselves. And that, as you described, has flipped. What has not changed pace with that is the laws around women. And there still is a lot of protections around women, even though women are becoming VPs and vice presidents and brain surgeon and occupying positions of parliament and occupying positions of government and occupying spaces that were primarily dominated or singularly dominated by men. But the law has not kept pace with that change, and philosophies and ideologies have not kept pace with that flip. Um, with men not succeeding and men not being able to drive and be motivated or encouraged, I think because women men have always, even though women's suffrage was a real thing, men have always seen value in a woman, and it wasn't based on income. When women started making more and earning more and getting higher levels of education, for some reason women flipped that script and no longer saw value in men who could no longer do for them. And I think that's not fair. And because men, even, and again, it's wrong that they had the different things that separated the two. A man will see a woman working at McDonald's today, and I think even to a degree back then, a man will see a woman riding the bus carrying a bunch of groceries and still see value in that woman.
Mm,
Today, women do not have that same kind of empathy,
mm.
and I feel that is wrong. I think that mindset is what we talked about earlier, where the cycle is being perpetuated from great grandma to mom to daughter. you have a series of women who have bad experiences, starting with great great grandma who had bad experiences. I needed a man, and now she's telling her daughter, never need a man because I
Mm,
experienced that and
yep.
I went through that. And so they're uplifting the daughters and encouraging the daughters to achieve higher and higher heights, but in the process they're downgrading the men and minimizing the men's value in that same hype up. And like you, I don't think anything's wrong with women doing well, but I think that mindset needs to go away where women are teaching men to put men in a box. If he doesn't pay the bills, if he doesn't cut the grass, if he doesn't make you feel emotionally connected, if he doesn't do enough date nights, if he don't take you at least 3 dates per week, end the relationship. That is wrong, and that is something men have never looked at women and minimized women too. Men are
Mm,
becoming a dollar and an ATM when women, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that a woman in 2025 going into 2026 still wants a provider.
mm,
I think that is absurd, especially when you can occupy and make more the same amount of money or more than me.
mhm,
I think that is but again, where did that come from? That came from a perpetual cycle of women teaching women have a savings account, have money separate from him that he doesn't know about. That needs to die because it's not helping,
mm,
right? A man, I give you all my assets, and legally I should because you didn't have much rights. You didn't have the ability to go to work. You didn't have the opportunity to get a savings account or a checking account or have a mortgage without the co-signer of a male. You needed me, but that is no longer the case.
mhm,
And so there's a mindset that needs to die as things flip.
mhm.
I don't allow anyone. I don't allow anyone to come on my podcast who only advocates for one side. Right? There's a benefit that you offer that men will see value in, but women can also learn from. I
Sure.
think women can subscribe for help for men because I need to know how to help my young man. Just like I said, the single mother watching this, she needs to sign up her son, right? And it's not minimizing a woman's value. It's getting that balance back in alignment. Because like you said, women are excelling them and then they're going out in a dating pool and there's no viable candidates. Or there's very few viable candidates. And the viable candidates, the one percenters who have the looks and have the body and the six-pack abs and the money, they're just playing the field because they can.
Mm.
Because you have because what
'Cause
are you
it's
gonna do?
never
You're gonna go to
it's never
Ralph.
been easier. It's never been easier. Like,
Those men are
where's
gonna
my
play.
phone? I was gonna hold up my phone. Yeah, I could literally take this phone and have 3 dates next week, especially if you're one of those one percenters, as you call it. It's, the guys that are sought after. So it is very, very difficult to convince those guys, what's best for you and for society overall is if you find one woman, devote yourself to her, have 2.5 kids in the house. And so there's a lot of guys saying, why on earth would I do that? And potentially lose this, lose that, do all these other things. When in fact, all I got to do is pick this thing up, and I have the time of my life next week with some of the cutest women you ever met, and they don't want any kind of commitment either. So this is a win-win, and that leads to some not so good things as we've seen. It's just a lot of very unhappy people. And this is the thing. I'm not saying that marriage is for everybody. Oh no, 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 no. In fact, it could be argued in the in the theme of fairness. Let's take the perspective of some women in this that make the argument that actually this is a good thing. The women are higher achievers. Women are more picky. Da, da, da. What we're finding is that some women say, believe it or not, there are women out there that exist that say this. I don't care about the monetary thing. I can take care of myself. I got my own bank account. I can got my own Mercedes. I'm the partner in this law firm, and I'm not looking for a dude that's the president of the law firm. And that's ridiculous. I recognize that that's like nobody. I'm looking for a good man, and looking for a good, faithful man that's going to love me. He's going to be there for me. He's going to be a good father to my kids. I want a good partner to go through life. Ideally, that's what you want to hear. So ideally, in defense of those women saying that, if that's the case, and if everybody had that mindset, what are we left with? Kind of a lot of really good relationships that are based on love and commitment and respect. Not so much on I need him to pay the mortgage and I need her to stay home and take care of the kids. It's two people that are relatively independent, but at the same time recognize the value of being together. The problem is that's what percentage of the people out there? 10%? We just went marriage from here down to here as far as numbers are concerned. That's not very good for the economy. It's not good for making babies and everything else. But at the same time, I know a lot of people that are therapists and psychologists and so forth, and we talk about this stuff all the time. And they say, no, that would be a great thing because we would have far fewer broken families, far fewer divorces. Sure, the numbers of marriages would go way down, the babies would go way down, but overall, I think that would be better for society and make people happier. I don't know. There's an argument to be made either way. From our perspective as men, we see a whole lot of really picky women that don't see a lot of value in men. From the woman's perspective, they're like, yeah, that's a good thing. We're going to be left with a lot of really great relationships, and all the others can go away. Case can be made either way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Brewer, phenomenal. This is huge. I want to pivot to men finding the healthy traits in a quality partner. One of the things I've always tried to encourage men is, and I've said to men, both sides can benefit from this, is we have to become better pickers, right? When you look at the pro athlete, when he loses the Super Bowl, what does he do? He doesn't celebrate. He doesn't travel to Cancun, Mexico and celebrate. He doesn't go to Dubai. He doesn't go to Jamaica and celebrate losing his marriage, right? That NBA player or that pro football player, he goes back, he watches the tape, he trains harder, he strengthens himself for next competition, and he becomes better next season. As men, we need to become better pickers and finding the qualities in mates that make it mutually beneficial for both parties. Can you speak to what are some common unhealthy traits men ignore in women before committing, and what are some red flags they should look out for, and what are some good green flags men should pay attention to?
I actually wrote a book on this. It's called Red Flags. And
perfect.
And you can actually learn more at what's the website I have for that? Redflagsformen.com is the domain, but it takes you to our website at helpformen.com. You can find it there. But there are all kinds of things here, my man. Let me back up and say before we get into the particulars, something we see often, and this is where I thought you were going with this, is guys immediately after a breakup or divorce, they lose the Super Bowl, so to speak. What they often do is jump right back on the horse and get right back into the dating game right away. So you got a guy who's been married for 15, 20 years, really dysfunctional, awful relationship. It's been sexless forever. He's raring and ready to go. They say, let's get divorced. I mean, they haven't even signed an agreement or anything yet. And they verbally say, yeah, we're going to break up. They tell the kids, whatever. A lot of men, I mean, a lot of men get on those dating apps like the next day, because they're trying to fill a void. In their defense, they would say, I'm just horny. I'm just trying to get some. I haven't had any for so long from this wife. And you go, yeah, but dude, here's the thing. You're going to go out. You're going to find what you think is Mrs. Right. You're going to ignore all the red flags, and you're going to end up right back where you were before. And what a lot of guys tell me is that rebound relationship and the subsequent breakup and everything is actually more painful than the divorce they just went through to the woman of 20 years. Because often the way they look at it is it's almost as if life has told them, I saw all the torture you went through with that marriage. Here's Mrs. Perfect for you. She just fell in your lap and she makes you feel amazing. And you're both physically connected and emotionally connected. And it's the most amazing thing ever. She's your dream girl. And then you find out that thing and then another thing. And then finally you can't ignore it. And the relationship blows up. And it's almost like life saying, here's Mrs. Perfect. And then it pulls out the rug from under you and says, psych, just kidding. She's just as crazy as your ex. And you're like, oh, I did it again. She's just like my ex-wife. So how do we avoid that? It's kind of a deeper issue than just, let me recognize this bad thing and that bad thing. It goes deeper into, why is it I keep attracting these people to begin with to my life? Because you don't have to. Probably more realistic, why is it I'm not repelling these people right away? Why is it that I'm not acting on some of these bad things that I see? Because a normal, secure, healthy, emotionally healthy individual sees these things right away and doesn't even give that person the time of day. They're just like, no, thank you, nice meeting you, see you, bye. While a guy who's damaged, usually right after a divorce, says, oh, a pretty girl that talks to me. She doesn't even need to be that pretty, let's be honest. she just gives me the time of day and that's enough. She likes me. She's not running away. Good enough. And he hangs on to her. He does not want to let her go at all. Not good. So some of the things that you can look out for, really, it's based upon you. your identity, your values as a man. So, for example, we got a guy who says, let's say he's a guy that was raised by an alcoholic father. Because his father was an alcoholic, he sees that how that can really be a real detriment to relationships and the kids and everything else. So he's like, I have vowed off of alcohol. I haven't touched a drop of alcohol my whole life, and I'm going to stay that way. And I don't like going to bars. I don't like hanging out with people that drink. It's just, ugh, I don't like that. Then he's divorced, and then he's like, I'm lonely, horny. I'm looking for companionship, and he meets some gal, and she's the perfect gal, and they go to her place, and she's like, "Do you mind if I have a glass of wine?" He's like, "No, it's fine. Go ahead." Right away, he's going against his values. Then he notices she drinks one bottle, two bottles, and he's like, "Oh God." And he puts up with this and he puts up with this, and it leads to more chaos. And he realizes this is just a tip of the iceberg of things that aren't so good about her. 6 months later into the relationship, he's got to end it. He's heartbroken. She's heartbroken. If he had just acted on that little red flag to begin with, then he could have avoided all this. But he doesn't have the self-respect and the self-love to put up those boundaries and say, that's not my world. I'm not doing that. That's really tough for a lot of guys that are hurting. A lot of guys that don't have a lot of relationship experience. I talked to a lot of men who basically married their high school sweetheart. And so they don't know the whole mating game, what to look out for, what not to look out for. And they don't want to be an a-hole because maybe they were raised by a single mother, going back to your earlier point, who told them every woman's a queen. So he meets every woman and he's just like, I just look past all her faults because deep down, she's a really good woman, right? That's a good way to get into trouble. So what are some typical things? Some of the most typical things we hear, and this is stuff that's passed down generationally for men that are lucky enough to have a father figure in their life to tell them these kind of things. You'll have the thing of watch how she treats people who she has no personal connection to, people that serve her. So the most common example is watch her at a restaurant and how she treats the serving staff, so to speak. So they get her, she asks for a steak well done, and they bring it back medium rare. Does she go, excuse me, this steak is, yeah, no worries, it's fine, I'll wait? Or does she yell at them, call them stupid, and say you can't do your job, and starts treating them like dirt and doesn't leave a tip and everything else? So that's a pretty good indicator of once the honeymoon phase passes in your relationship, guess who you're going to be? You're going to be that waiter. You're going to be that wait staff who she's going to treat that way because she can't get anything more out of you. There's all kinds of little tricks and tips, and watch their family. I can't tell you how many guys tell me, this is so funny. Her family warned me about her. Her brother pulled me aside and said, you sure, dude? You want to do this? And her mother said, oh, aren't you sweet? How long you guys been dating? Everyone's a little like hesitant about it. Like, dude, are you sure? And he hears this again, and he hears this from the uncle and the aunt and the friend who are all like, oh, wow, you're the new boyfriend, huh? And a lot of guys, again, because they don't have a lot of self-respect, self-love, they look past all this stuff. People look at their family in terms of the dysfunction. This is not very fair. Let's put this out there. Everybody has red flags. Absolutely. You and I, Marcus, look down, put on paper everything that's negative about us. There's plenty of women that would go, oh, no, thank you. And they have every right to do so. What I have seen is that, do they recognize the faults in themselves? Do they get help with it? Are they working actively to overcome these faults in themselves? If so, that's what we call a great human being, and it would probably make a great partner. Maybe not. But are your boundaries and values and your identity such that there are certain things that are a go, no go for you? It's amazing how many people don't have those. They're like, I don't know. It's just whoever likes me, basically. It's like, well, you're setting yourself up for trouble because invariably something's going to come up that's going to go against who you are and your identity and values. And that's going to be a major, oh no, down the road. So really you need to look at what are the things, let's back up here. What are your values? What's your identity? What do you stand for? Do they go against that right off the bat? Then next. And by the way, that's perfectly fine. You're not a jerk for saying that. If they're a secure human being, they shake your hand and say, I appreciate it for not wasting my time and getting in a relationship with me for months only to dump me somewhere down the line. A no is great. Any salesman will tell you sometimes no is the best thing. So you don't waste time and money trying to convince them otherwise. So they shake your hand and say, thank you. Or they blow up and you realize, oh, this was a good decision after all because of all the ensuing chaos. So you see the red flags. If they're violating your values right away, they're done. If they have those red flags and you go, so I notice, fill in the blank. Tell me about that. If they're forthcoming about the thing you see and they're like, oh, I get where you're going with this, let me explain it. And let me tell you what's going on with why I have 5 kids and why I'm divorced twice and whatever it may be. If they got a good explanation for it and you see how this is key, Marcus, if they take ownership of it, if they are accountable, if you're with a woman who has been with 3 different husbands, let's say in the past, and all the husbands just happen to be the biggest jerks and narcissists in the world, and she was totally a victim in all of them, that ain't good. What you want to hear is, oh yeah, I got a history of bad relationships. I was immature. I got with the wrong people. I wasn't good for them. They weren't good for me. I've learned a lot since those past relationships. This is what I've learned. This is what I learned about me. I took some time off from dating and everything for quite a while. I did the therapy thing and I did this thing and that thing and blah, blah, blah. Now I'm here with you because I just enjoy your company and everything else. If something happens with this down the line, great. If not, that's fine. But I'm in no hurry to tie the knot or anything like that. I'm just getting out there and meeting people and learning about myself. Well, that sounds like a great person. Sounds like an interesting person, somebody who's introspective and accountable for their mistakes. That's key. That's huge. And that's relatively rare these days. Everybody's a victim. Everybody's ex was a narcissist. Everybody's ex had personality disorders. No one seems to go, yeah, I was a dick in my last relationship. I was a jerk. I was whatever it may be. That's pretty rare these days. So when you hear that from somebody, that's a green flag. Somebody takes accountability for some past mistakes and is actively trying to correct them.
Absolutely. I love this topic. What are your thoughts? I want to double back on the point that you made, the great point that you made about family dynamics. I don't think that's a good metric, right? I don't think that's a good metric in like you said, where someone someone doesn't have a relationship with their parents. Do they hold themselves accountable? On the flip side, and women can relate to this, when women say, how does he treat his mother? I tell women that's not a good characteristic, because he treats his mother well. There's a fine line with, does he treat people well, that I think women need to distinguish from. Treating his mother well, which leads women to believe, oh, he does for his mom, he does all these things for his mom. Is he a mama's boy? And that's what you
I was
don't.
just going to say that it can go too far, can't it? Yeah, where he's
It
too
can go.
enmeshed with mama, and mama can't leave his side, and he has to run everything by mom. And like, mom, what do you think of this? What do you think of this girl? He brings mom on date number 2, and that's any secure woman will see that and go, this is not good. This dude's got problems. So it can go too far for sure. Yeah, every little one of these little red flags, there's like a story behind them, and you got to dig a little further. It's not at face value a good or bad thing. It's just a little warning sign, little flag going, there may be something here, dude. It's time to start digging, and don't ignore this.
Absolutely. Date nights. I want to talk about dates. Who pays for dates? What do you teach men? I'll give you mine. Um, I think there needs to be a sense of reciprocity when courting women,
Very good.
and I think men should look for that in their partner. Um, and if you're dating her, but she's also dating you, and so in that process, I think men need to see reciprocity, reciprocation. um it's not a cookie cutter standard, but if you find yourself um doing not doing as well when you spend time with this person, meaning you have less money, you have less time, they're constantly demanding your time, and you have less time for other things, it's not a cookie cutter answer, but that is a good starting point to start a conversation and reevaluate whether this person is. If you have less money when you enter courtship, I think that's a metric to initiate a conversation and reevaluate, why do I have less money? Oh, because she's always gearing me up and prompting me. Oh, I miss you. I miss you, Mr. Brewer. When we going to dinner? And that's a constant. And she's constantly expecting you to spend. One of the great things I heard is women who expect a man to pay for everything and pay for all the dates have removed the ability for a man to be generous. And
I like it.
I love that thought process. Your thought
Mhm.
process around dates, who should pay for the dates, should the man pay for all the dates? Because it's not financially beneficial for a man to men lose in courtship financially. I don't think it's beneficial for a man to pay for all the dates.
You know, most of the men that come to me have maybe what you would call a more traditional view of this kind of thing. I'm the man. It's the date. I pay for it, and I push back on that a little bit, just like you do. Let me set the table here a little bit and kind of paint the picture for me.
Please.
I have remarried since that divorce from 14 years ago, and my wife is a surgeon. She's a medical doctor. She don't need Ralphie Boy to pay for things. But when we first started dating, she was a doctor in training, was making peanuts. It was nothing. But I'll tell you what, she's also German, so she's not American. So I think there's a cultural thing there as well. But she was very good about being grateful. When I pulled the card out, she's like, "Oh, you don't have to do that." And I'm like, "No, I got it." I knew that she was making 30 grand a year as a resident and working like so many hours a week and stuff. It's my pleasure. I can afford it. It's my pleasure. No, don't worry about it. And what does she say? I'll get the next one. Or when we go out for ice cream, I'll get the ice cream. Wonderful. Great. Right. But the woman who's just, as soon as the check comes, she takes out the little makeup thing and starts dabbing her eyes and starts looking around, in other words, she's la, la, la. And she's like, it's expected of you. And there's no reciprocity. There's no gratefulness. There's no thank you. That's a red flag. I don't care how you look at it. I don't care how traditional you are. You want the other person, she's an adult for God's sakes. You want the other person to say, thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, and I make dinner at my place next time. Maybe she doesn't make all that much money, but she makes an effort there, right? Or later on that night after you drop her off at her place, you get a text message saying, dinner was wonderful. I just want to say thank you again. I appreciate it. There you go. So what you're pointing to, the opposite is a woman who just feels entitled by virtue of the fact that she's the female in this new relationship. That's just what meant. He better pay for it. Damn it. I'm the woman. That's not an attitude that goes well with me. I don't like it. I tend to like brainy women who I can have good conversations with. And brainy women these days tend to be pretty successful. So it's no coincidence that the women that I dated after divorce are all pretty. There was an attorney, there was this and that, and my wife is a surgeon, a pediatric surgeon, so she cuts up little kids. So she's a pretty important person that saves lives on a daily basis. So nowadays, it's when the check comes and we're going out to dinner, it's kind of both reaching for it, and she'll do the I got it. I'm like, oh, thank you. I'll do the thank you. I appreciate it, sweetie. And then I'll do the I got the thing later. I got the movie tonight. Okay. It's not a big deal. It's just what we do. And it's interesting. Yes, she does have her own account and I have mine. And then we have a joint one. And then I think from previous relationships, we see the importance of having the independence, but at the same time being connected and at the same time respecting each other's financial situations and everything else. And I think that's pretty common in today's day and age, unless you're one of those kind of uber traditional types that are like, woman stays home, barefoot, pregnant. I pay for everything. She's saying, well, good luck with that. If that's your thing, cool. I mean, as long as she's cool with that as well. But that's more and more rare these days.
It is. I had the honor and the pleasure of interviewing a gentleman who's a certified divorce. It's a special designation that he carries. And one of the things he said, him and his partner, when he was married, had that initial arrangement. Hey, I will work as hard as I need to so you can stay at home and raise the kids. But the initial agreement was, once the kids are out the house and they're grown and they're doing well, Mama, I need you to go back to work and help and support. That was the initial agreement. And she signed off on it and she agreed to it. And so he did his part. He did the things. He worked as hard as he needed to. He worked 2, 3, 4 jobs. He worked hard, but he allowed her to stay at home. And then after the kids was grown and left, she was like, oh, you've been holding it down for so long. I'm just going to continue to stay home because you've been doing it anyway. And I remember posting the video. I remember posting the clip, and women completely lost their minds because they were like, do you realize how much work she put in to have those kids? Do you realize the risk and the surgery? I said, da. She agreed to this prior to, before we ever had kids, before we ever did the thing. She agreed and promised that she would go back to work and help shift some of that burden off of him. That was the initial agreement, irregardless of how long he did. If he did it for 18 years, he held it down for 18 years, and he's asking for relief. like
Mhm.
we agreed, and he's asking for the terms of the verbal contract. And in so, when she broke that contract, he initiated divorce. I don't
Wow.
think he was wrong.
That was their agreement. He's a man of his word. This means something to me, and my word means something to me. How he got to that decision, whatever. It's a lot of the traditional conservative men that I talk to hate it when I say this. But I got to tell you, I've been at this for 10 plus years talking to men and working with men and so forth. When I hear a guy that's like, I got a wife who's a stay at home mom, and I work and I pay all the bills and I do all this, and our marriage isn't going too good, I wince and go, ugh, because those guys don't make out well. And I hear that again and again and again, to the point where I tell men that are on the market, be careful. You're dating the gal who's, I always use Walmart cashier as the example when I talk about this, and apparently that insults Walmart cashiers. But by that I mean part-time, low income, not gainfully employed person, um, and you bring them into the fold, and they're your spouse, and you have the kids and everything. Any lawyer will tell you, oh boy, did you sign a prenup? Because things can get pretty hairy pretty quick. And like that guy, for example, I had this agreement. What's the agreement? Verbal? Like, that ain't going to cut it, dude. Should have put something on paper. That woman probably made out pretty well, and depending on how much he made and all this other stuff. But she's a stay-at-home mother at the end of 18, 20 years. She can take half the house and half his 401k and half of this and half of that. And the man's like, the case could be made she earned every bit of it by staying home with kids and keeping the house down and everything else. But at the same time, that man worked really hard for not a whole lot of money when it's all said and done. So, and a lot of those men still pay on a monthly basis to the woman in terms of spousal support, alimony, which is a relatively smart. It's only like 10% of the time it's alimony's involved. But got the splitting of the assets and everything. However they work that out, that may mean a monthly payment to her for the next so many years. That may mean all kinds of things. So I guess the long-winded way of saying, I'm not a big advocate for man works, woman doesn't. I don't see where that works out a lot of the time, at least financially. But in full transparency, who am I talking to? People with relationship problems that are going through divorce and everything. I don't hear that. I don't hear the happy stories. So I'm prejudiced by that.
I think it's acceptable when a woman is building with a man. If you have helped me, I'm not talking about just raise the kids. If you have helped me earn the income that I earn today, and I'm making, like, I think it was the Dave Ramsey show where the wife called in and she's like, my husband makes $750,000 a year, and he wants me to go back to work. Same thing. He wants me to go back to work. The kids are out of the house, they're doing well, but he makes $750,000 a year. And Dave Ramsey, and she was like, why do I have to go to work? He makes $750,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave Ramsey, it was the worst advice he had ever given on his show. He had said, well, mama, tell that man to suck it up. No, that's what she agreed to. And so I think, but I think it's worth it. And I balance it out. I'm with you, but I balance it out when I tell men, if she helped you achieve that $750,000 a year,
without
then
her, would you have achieved that? Yeah. Without her.
Exactly. Then to me, that's worthy of, babe, you can have whatever the hell you want, because I would not be earning this without you.
Excellent point. So, she's the one taking care of the 3 kids in the house and doing the doctor's appointments and driving everybody to while you're running off doing business meetings in China and everything else. Somebody's got to hold down the fort and take care of the kids. And by the way, having been a guy that's gone through divorce and suddenly a single parent to 3 kids, that is not an easy task. And not everybody is wired for it. Some men really excel at that stay-at-home dad thing. They almost treat it like a military thing. They're able to run the regiment at home and stuff. But other people like myself, I was going to say pull my hair out, but I'm bald for those that can't see me. but
Vin Diesel over here, y'all.
Not all of us are wired for that. It drives us nuts to be in a house with 3 kids and running all that and the appointments and that cleaning and I'd much rather be at the office. So,
but on the flip side, you can outsource all of that.
You can outsource it, especially if you're making $750 a year.
All the women that advocate and say, I raised the kids, I took them to school, I can outsource everything you just mentioned.
Yeah, that's true.
I can hire a cleaner. I can hire a chef. I can hire a Uber. There's Uber Teens. I can get an Uber driver to take the kids to school or to softball practice. I can pay for all the things you mentioned.
That argument may work against you because then she would say, okay, and start taking out a spreadsheet and totaling up everything you're talking about and multiplying it by 18 years. And as far as I'm concerned, you owe me this much, mister. And like, well, shoot, that backfired on me. But yeah, there's pluses and minuses. There's cases, I totally see their point. I really do. And obviously I see the man's point more so. And it's just a pretty risky thing this day and age to say, I'm gonna be the sole breadwinner and she's gonna stay home. Oof. But again, I'm talking to the worst of the worst. I'm talking to people where it just blows up in their face. I can see how bad it can get.
So you're for prenuptial agreements?
I am.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I have one.
So I need your help. I need you to speak on that. You said no. Here's why. Let me gauge you up.
Okay.
I think prenuptial agreements have been made to be this evil thing. I don't think it's you sitting across the table with your lawyer on your end and she's down by herself looking all disheveled and you slide some documents down on her end and say sign or else. I think that has been played out in movies. I think a well done prenuptial agreement that benefits both parties is removes all the other things and allows the couple to focus on what's truly important, the
Amen.
love.
That's exactly. And in fact, we have the data to back that up. Couples that have prenups stay together longer. They have a less chance of divorce. How funny is that?
What like, do you have a number? Like, is it 50%? Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Here's what helped me with this prenup thing. Okay. Culturally, my wife's world in Germany, it's like a given. You get married to somebody, and before you go to the altar or whatever, you sit down with a lawyer and you go, what do we do in case this disintegrates? It's called a prenup. What assets are you bringing to the relationship before I got involved? On her side, on my side, what debts do we have? Okay, you see this 50 grand of debt that I have and this 50 grand of assets that I have before getting into this marriage, it's mine, both of them. You're not responsible for either of them. You don't get it. Cool. What we build together as a couple, though, if we were to divorce, right down the middle, right? Yes, cool. You put all that in an agreement. It's like a 2-page thing. It's like a no-brainer to her and her culture and her world. And I was like, oh, hallelujah. I thought this was going to be a bit of a struggle
battle.
Getting to agree to something. A battle. Thank you. Getting her to agree to something like this. But she's like, no, this makes perfect sense. And I tell you, though, in complete transparency and complete honesty, what helped also was, and I spoke to an attorney, a female attorney who told me this. I don't have any data to back this up, but she said anecdotally, when it was the woman who had more money or the potential for a lot more money, the woman was way more likely to say yes to a prenup. So my wife was looking at becoming an attending physician down the line, making high 6 figures, more so than me. So she has potentially a lot to lose if, she gets with some dipshit husband who runs off with the secretary or gambles all their money away or whatever it may be. So she wants to protect that. How interesting. It's like the gender roles are flipping there, isn't it? So the attorney I spoke to said, yeah, when that's the case, we see that a lot of women are pro prenup. So that also worked in my favor. So I'm with you totally. I don't see the problem with them whatsoever.
Absolutely. I love this. This is good. I think men need to reconsider. And I think men and women need to reconsider. And if a woman is not open to that dialogue, to me, that's a red flag.
That's a red flag.
It's a conversation. I'm not asking you to sign anything. Can we talk about it?
Why are you anti-prenup? What is it you see about that? A lot of them go to, it's very not romantic. You're already putting divorce on as a possibility. It shouldn't even be a possibility. It's like, okay, just stop. It's a possibility. It's like half the time, for goodness sakes. It's what happens. And 70% of the time, it's you ladies that run, to the courthouse to get the documents signed, which there's a lot of reasons why that may be. But you got to protect myself as a man. And frankly, wife, you should want to do the same.
Absolutely.
It's a very practical thing.
Is it? I had no idea it was a norm in Germany.
Wow. Apparently so. Yeah.
Man, this is so good. This is an incredible podcast. This is this is. Do you do men retreats? What are your thoughts? We talked about it earlier. We touched on it earlier. Does Help for Men do retreats and create spaces for the brotherhood of men to get together and share thoughts, share ideas, get out their mama's basement?
As of now, we have one formal gathering in the US every year, and we hope to eventually make that bigger and have additional gatherings. And then one in Australia every year. And we have our guys informally get together in meetups. You know, like a guy will say, I'm in New York City. Anybody else in Brooklyn want to get together? And 3 or 4 guys get together, kind of thing. But beyond that, no. We are. I'm a little too cynical to be the kind of to be the kind of guy that's like, let's all go out in the woods and take our shirts off and yell at the clouds or whatever. I'm not one of those guys. That's not me. Nor am I one of those guys that let's go pay somebody thousands of dollars to yell at us and pretend we're in the military. I don't know if you saw that went kind of viral here not too long ago. There was a men's group that charged their men, wait for it, $18,000 to go away for a week and have some military drill sergeants yell at you and call you a wuss and drag you through the mud and turn you into a real man, so to speak. It's like, no, that ain't me either. We're not going to do that. I'm not going to sit around and bang on drums or whatever else. We're just a bunch of guys to get together for a weekend. And yes, we have an event space, and we rent a big house to stay in overnight together, eat, drink, do presentation. We have special guests. I don't know if you know Dr. Robert Glover, author of No More Mr. Nice Guy. He was at an event of ours in Austin. He's going to be at the one in Louisville coming up here next year. He's one of the biggest men in our space. Anybody who's interested in this kind of stuff, you need to stop what you're doing and read No More Mr. Nice Guy. It's a book about codependence, which is very common in men. And we've had other special guests that have come. Lauren, who's a woman, the Dadvocate. She's a big, as her name implies, an advocate for men and divorce and parenthood. She's really huge in the social media world, millions of followers. She's going to be there with us next year. So Adam, who is a psychologist, he's going to be the Adam Nissenson. He'll be there with us as well. So we have our special guests. We have our team. We have myself. We put on workshops, presentations. We all get together as a group and do activities. But we're not, like I say, we're not the get in the woods and get half naked and yell and do all their stuff and cry and everything. That's if that's your thing, dudes, have at it. But it's not going to be in our group. That's not what we do.
I love it. Is there data behind it? Why do you do it? Can you share on that?
There's what we've all noticed is from when we first did our first one 6 years ago, 5 years ago now. Our very first one was in Nashville. It's a big difference between seeing these little 2-dimensional pictures on your screen, you know, in our group talks and in the Zoom meetings we have. When you finally press the flesh, so to speak, and see them in person, it makes it real. And it takes the energy up a few hundred notches. So every guy said the same thing after that first meeting, which is, after that, I was so energized. I was ready to run through a wall. I was ready to tackle my marriage and get back to or tackle my new relationships, whatever it may be. And there's just something about meeting men in person that is so very important. And when you look at it scientifically, we're engineered for that. We're supposed to socialize with other human beings and make an emotional, mental, physical connection with other human beings. That's what keeps us sane. That's what keeps us going. A form of torture, according to a lot of countries all over the world, is what do they call it? Where you're isolated in prison. You have no connection with other people. What's the term?
Concentration camp?
No. Wait, when you're in prison and they take you out of the general population and they put you in a cell all by yourself with no connection.
Solitary confinement.
Solitary confinement. It's a lot of people see that as a form of torture. If you can't talk to other people, you end up going nuts. And so there's something that we are wired as a human species that we need to socialize, talk to other people. And when you see your buddies that you've been talking to for years online, you see them in person, it just takes it up a few hundred notches. And we always say the same thing. I've had some men say this was the most important event of my life, from the birth of my kids to this. It's just, some men are very isolated and they're like, oh, I didn't realize that there were so many men like me. You know, we have guys that are on the autism spectrum, for example, and they feel very ostracized by their community, and they're the weirdos, they're the different ones, and they meet a handful of guys just like them, like, woohoo, this guy's just like me, and they also have marriage problems, and they also have all this. It's hugely beneficial for guys.
Absolutely. I love this. This has been a phenomenal phenomenal conversation. This has been epic, and I appreciate you, Mr. Brewer, for doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Marcus.
And giving back in this way. You've shared so many gems, so many nuggets this episode. If you had one more in the hat, if you could leave men with one sentence, one phrase about manhood, to help them, their back is against the wall. They're feeling the pressures of society. They're not making the kind of money they want. They're not able to go to school like they want. They're feeling the pressure. What would you say to that young boy watching, that young man, that gentleman that's just feeling like he wants to give up? What would you say to them right now?
Get comfortable saying one word: help. Ask for help. It's okay. You're not a wuss. You're not less of a man for raising your hand and saying, I need a little help here with whatever it may be, whether it's professional, whether it's personal, whether it's your relationships or whatever it is, to raise your hand and say, I need help. That's okay. You're not less of a man for doing so. And it may not happen right away. You may get crickets. You know, the society may say, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help you. Don't give up. Keep searching for help. Obviously, I'm a little biased and I have an organization just for this, but there are a lot of other such organizations and people out there that specialize in helping dudes in need. It's just a little tougher for us to find than everybody else, it seems, unfortunately. But don't be afraid to ask for help. That is the key. Any great man that I have ever known who has accomplished something in life, 0% did it alone. They all said, I need a little help, whether it's their business or their relationship, whatever it may be. I need help getting over the hump here. I'm not achieving my goals. Have you, sir, have you done this before? Yes, I have. Show me how to do it. That's huge, man. That's everything. And that's something I always struggled with in my early adulthood. I never asked for help.
Absolutely. How can people find you? How can people learn more? This train has left the station, but it's not too late for our young men, our men, to get on board. How can people connect with you and learn more?
The helpformen.com is the source of everything. Helpformen.com. If you want to jump right to the page to join our group, the Brotherhood, you can go to helpformen.com/join, or just go to the Brotherhood in the menu. You'll see it on there on the website. You can find me online. I have a social media brand that we call Dad Starting Over. You can find me. There we go. There's the graphic on the screen there for people that are listening in. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Thank you. TikTok. What else am I on there? YouTube, TikTok. I think that's about all of them. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Yeah. But I'm all over the place. Some of you guys that are, if you can't see me because you're listening in on the audio, if you go search, you may say, oh yeah, I know this guy. I've seen his bald head yapping away on my news feed for years now. I didn't realize that's who this is. Yeah, that's me. I've had some videos that have gotten to the millions. You know, I've been out recognized in public. I was just in Las Vegas here a couple weeks ago for a few weeks ago now for my birthday with some buddies. And I was stopped in the hotel lobby by some guy who's like, I know you. And I was like, yep, that's me. So word's gotten out. So the little video clips and everything, it works. So yes, that's me. And guys, thank you for all your support. And thank you, Marcus, man. I really appreciate you having me on here. It means a lot to me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you. All right, y'all. We are unfortunately out of time. We got to let this incredible man go. Mr. Brewer has many more lives to change, many more men to help, and many more families and bonds and social events. Again, he has a U.S. event and he has an Australia event, and he does it every year. So he's doing the great work. Connect. But we got to let this incredible man go. He has many more things to do and many more men to inspire. And if you caught nothing he said, connect with me and I will get you to him, because this is an invaluable resource. He is necessary. All right, y'all, like we end every show, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always take care of business. This is Marcus, your favorite gentleman and host, and the incredible, super fragilistic, espialidocious Mr. Ralph Brewer, helpformen.com. Signing off. Love you guys. Bye.